What's a loophole you abused until it was closed? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. I always click the help button at unattended paid parking structures. It's a 50-50 chance that the attendant that's supposed to go out and help you won't bother and just open the gate. There are 4 locations in Hollywood that this happens at that I will take to my grave. Answer: there was a parking garage I used once that was unmanned past a certain point, and they just unlocked the gates. When I went to use it a second time for the obvious reason, I parked in the wrong garage and they locked it up. Luckily, the attendant recognized us as we were walking back, and he was just driving home and went back for us. Awesome dude. Story 2. Back when Best Buy sold strategy guides and GameStop bought them as trade-ins, I would buy up all the ones that went clearance for 1 cent and go across the street to sell them each for 1. Paid for my GameCube and PS2 that way. Answer: I did this, but with games. Back in the late 90s, there were 3 GameStops within a quarter mile of each other. When they introduced the return policy on open games, I made a habit of going through pretty much every new game on the PS2, then would return it to one of the other GameStops within the 2-week time frame. Took them 2 years to figure out folks were doing this. Story 3. Back in the payphone days, if your call didn't go through, you got your quarter back. You'd call home and let the phone ring once and hang up. You'd call a second time, let it ring twice, and hang up. I'd still have my quarter, and my mom knew I was ready to be picked up from school. Went away when payphones did. Story 4. Graduated from a well-known college 20 years ago. Still had my student email and would link it to Prime, Adobe, and all the student discount deals. Finally got deactivated this past year, though. Story 5. Parking, garage, and college. First 15 mins were free. I'd park, go to my classes, hit the gym, grab some food, see friends, normally a few hours. When I left, I'd grab the big metal top from the 50-gallon barrel trash can near the entrance. Then I'd walk through the entry, holding the metal trash top to set off the sensor, making it seem as a car was coming in. Get a new ticket, return the top, and use the new ticket within the 15-minute time frame to drive out for free. Story 6. Years ago, the CVS reward card coupons weren't checked against what you bought. Got a one-off coupon for laundry soap? Get $1 off a soda instead. The employees didn't care, and it took a couple months for it to get fixed. Answer: I worked at CVS when I was younger. I miss working the photo lab. If you didn't have a card, I would scan one I had sitting by the register. This was back when if you hit X, you would get extra care bucks, no promos, or special requirements. I fed myself through the first 2 years of college for free until my manager caught on and told me to knock it off. Story 7. It wasn't really a loophole, but my local library when I was a kid did a drawing every month, or was it week, 30 years ago, I don't remember, to win a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut. All you had to do was read 5 books, and you'd fill them out on this piece of paper with your name on it. I was there all day often because my mom didn't want to but luckily I liked to read, so I would win that free pizza every time. I don't know if other kids read that much or even knew about it or what, but the library definitely parented and fed me for years. Answer: I loved the summer reading club at my library. Checking out books and reading, and then getting cool prizes like brand new books and stickers and stuff. Amazing. When I was old enough to be home alone, my mom would be off working, I would be home reading, at the library or walking from the library. We also got pizza from Book It, but that was during the school year. Story 8. Free Sirius XFM. I canceled it. The company stopped billing me but never actually shut it off. Lasted for years. Answer: I have a lifetime Sirius XM subscription. I bought it from XM before the merger. Their advertising called it a lifetime subscription, but their fine print said it was only for the lifetime of the device, not the subscriber. Someone filed a class action suit, and SiriusXM settled it by making lifetime subscriptions good for up to 3 new devices, which is as good as lifetime for me since I'm in my 70s and don't buy new cars that often. They no longer offer lifetime subscriptions. Story 9. Because I was a manager for a small privately owned business, it was my responsibility to update the company website, which was some DIY Squarespace thing. I always told the owner that I should be getting paid extra for the extra responsibility, as the website didn't even exist when I was hired, but she refused. So one day I linked their site to my personal Google AdSense account and continued to earn passive income for years after I left because the owner never bothered to view her own company website. And if she ever did see the ads, she most likely had no idea how they got there or how to remove them. Story 10. It was immediately closed. I only used it once, but maybe others got a few trips out of it. In 2001, I bought an airplane ticket online, and the site had a new feature to pick your own seat. I was like, whatever, front row, first class on an economy fare. Answer: reminds me of when I was looking at horse bridles online and found a bridle normally priced at over $200 listed for free on the website. I figured, what the hell, added it to my cart, paid for shipping, and figured they'd email me shortly to say, whoops, looks like that was a mistake. We won't be sending it to you unless you pay full price. But nope, they shipped it, I received it like a week later, and the price went back to over $200 the next day. LOL, I still have it. Story 11. Every time I picked up an Amazon locker at Rite Aid, it gave me a fave introductory coupon for anything in the store. Took them over a year to stop doing this. Story 12. Coca-Cola used to offer digital 5 Amazon credits at Christmas time to anyone who entered 10 bottle cap codes on their website, with a limit of 10 per email address. I was having a particularly lean year, so I created a number of new free email accounts so I could claim my family's stockpile of old bottle caps. I got about 1,400 in Amazon credit out of it. Story 13. When I worked at GameStop, I would tell everyone to get a warranty on any console, especially if it's used or refurbished. Not because it will break, but so you can get a new console every year. As long as you had that warranty, we had to exchange the console. If you bought a used one or refurb and we didn't have the same one, guess what? Someone is getting a new console. If you had the old model and the new Xbox Series S came out, guess who is getting a new Xbox Series S? You could bring in the console smash on the floor in front of me, and I had to replace it with what we had, as long as you did it with that year warranty. Answer: something similar. Back in the early 2000s when games used to come in CD form, I'd buy an online game, say Diablo 2, take the game home, install it, input the CD key, scratch the CD intentionally, then take it back to the store claiming it be faulty. They would replace the CD as per policy. New CD key, give to my friend. We'd pay D2 online together. Story 14. Years ago, like over 20 years LOL, my local post office had envelope packets out on the table for people that were new to the area. You didn't have to ask for them. They were just there, a lot of them. They were similar to mailers you get with coupons each week or month or whatever, but there was a little gem with all those worthless coupons. It was for 20 off at Sears, no minimum purchase, could be used on anything at all, including sales and clearance items. They had text that said 1 per household, but there was no tracking when you used it. Aside from that, there were 0 stipulations. I would grab a few of them each month until they ran out like 8 or 9 months later. I passed them out to friends who I knew could benefit from it too. I primarily got stuff for my kids. I'd scour the clearance racks and have piles of extremely marked down kids' clothes. I remember loading up on towels during a really awesome sale they were having, and honestly, most of the cashiers were unfamiliar with the coupon, but they would just process it. Being a single mom with little financial help, it was a godsend for me. Story 15. Worked out how to get the jackpot every time on a Connect 4 fruit machine in a pub I used to drink in. It would cost about 5 or 10 before you'd get into the bonus round. Then when you did, you'd play a Connect 4 game against the machine. You place the first counter, and then after the machine places the next counter, you mirror the machine's move. Every game ends in a draw and you win the jackpot, which was 50. The pub landlord removed the machine after around 3 months as it was regularly empty. Basically paid for my drinking and more for 3 months. Answer: I did something like this at an arcade when I was a kid. There was this machine that was just a spinning wheel with numbers on it, and your quarter would land on one of the numbers, and you'd get that many tickets. The highest number you could get was 200, and of course, the 200 was a quarter-sized circle separated from the others, which had wider spaces and were all together. I learned how to predict when to put in my quarter because the wheel moved at the same speed. I'd watch a bar and figure out which number had to go past the bar for me to put in my quarter and have it land perfectly on 200. I won 1,000 tickets one of the nights. They actually had to refill the machine. Last time I went to the arcade, years later, they changed it so the wheel would go at different speeds and sometimes turned around. It probably still follows a pattern, but I wasn't going to waste my time. I was also much older and no longer played at the arcade. Story 16. There have been a few iterations of it, but the GI Bill generally refers to the fact that if you serve in the U.S. military for 3 or more years, you can go to school for free. From 2006 until 2015, an error in how the post-911 GI Bill was written gave free school to everyone in the Coast Guard accidentally. Basically, the part of the bill that outlined who was entitled to the benefits of the bill included the Coast Guard as one of the uniformed services of the armed forces. But the part of the bill that detailed how benefits were earned only spoke to the requirements imposed on DoD service members. The Coast Guard isn't under the Department of Defense, it's in the Department of Homeland Security. A literal reading of the bill at that time said a Coastie could go to school for free, but never had to earn it. As soon as their induction paperwork was processed on their first or second day in the service, they could leave and then go to school for free. Thanks for sending me to grad school, America. Answer: was this the same one that pays you back as long as you're in school, physically not online, or until your GI Bill runs out? I know it was converted at some point during my 10 years between 2003 and 2013. I did take advantage of it, but I also earned it LOL. I have no problem with Coasties getting free school. An educated person is never a negative. I got my BSN while still on active duty AECP, and then used my GI Bill later to get a BS in marine biology, just because I liked it LOL. I still have some left if I wanted to go back for another bachelor's, but nah. Story 17. This is not a loophole, but if you ever are participating in a raffle, bend your ticket in half and straighten it so that it's slightly tented when you toss it in the basket. All the other tickets will be flat and laying together, and yours will be more likely to get picked because it's bent. Answer: I go a step further and crumble the ticket into a ball and unfurl it. It gives it a texture that's more likely to be selected. One year at the employee raffle, they made me pull the ticket from the bowl. I find and pull mine out by its texture. I felt guilty and made up a story that I don't like that I pulled my ticket out. I put my ticket back in the bowl and had someone else pull the ticket. Of course, they pull mine. So I won the grand prize, a snack basket, and I didn't feel guilty. Story 18. At one of the border crossings here in BC, the duty-free is almost right at the border booths, maybe a 10-minute wait. If you purchase something at the duty-free and show a receipt upon exit, they let you into the line right at the border booth, essentially. So whenever there was a line longer than 25 minutes, I would cut down the side lane, buy a water bottle or chocolate at the duty-free for $4, then bypass hundreds of cars. Massive time saver, especially during peak crossings. Story 19. uBlock Origin on Chrome to block those fudge YouTube ads. Now I use uBlock Origin on Firefox to block those fudge YouTube ads. Story 20. Free Papa John's pizza coupons. Back in the day, the higher tier ones from Papa John's leadership, didn't have a code or anything on them, just a signature. They never remembered to take the coupon, so I'd just call again in a few days. Got to the point where the store I usually ordered from started to call other stores to warn them about me and to make sure to grab the coupon. The fools, I had 30-40 coupons from a vendor fair where the guy just gave up and handed them to me before leaving. The funny thing is got over 20 pizzas from one coupon before they finally asked for it. Now all coupons have a unique code on them. Answer: similar. They put out this flyer of coupons on campus. Back when you didn't order online, you just told them you had a coupon. I assume out the burbs they probably tried to collect them. But on a college campus, never happened. Plus, it didn't really matter. You got another coupon with the pizza. That coupon was everywhere. Large single topping for $9.99. Story 21. A few years ago, I went to a local convenience store to see if I could buy a creamer for my morning coffee, and they said they don't sell them. I said I can see them in the refrigerator. Can I buy one? And they said no. So I went to the self-service, make your own coffee station, and fill the entire cup up with creamer and walked up to the counter with the lid on and paid for a coffee. Not exactly my finest moment, but I was in dire need of creamer. Answer: people used to do a variation of this at Starbucks. They'd order a couple shots of espresso and a side of ice, free. Then they would go to the condiment bar and dump the communal creamer into their cup of ice with their espresso shots. A poor man's latte, if you will. It never bothered me unless they'd empty the carafe without letting anyone know to replace it, as that would result in the next person wanting creamer to passively hold the empty carafe at the drink handoff. Annoyed that you can't magically make creamer appear while you're slammed with other orders. Story 22. 80s. We could put a quarter in the school payphone, and then just as you heard it clink, you click the hang-up lever almost fully. The line would open to make a call, and your quarter would be in the change return slot. Story 23. At the arcade when I was a kid in the 90s, there was a basketball game with a hoop that gave out decent tickets if you got it in. I assumed the owners thought that because it was nerds playing it, they would be bad at it. but it was installed on an angle and I found a place to stand to the side of the hoop that gave easier access. I didn't abuse it, and you weren't guaranteed every shot, but it became far easier. The owner caught me once and yelled at me and threw me out with no warning. There was nothing that indicated you had to stand in a certain spot, so I technically didn't break any rules, so it was a little harsh. Haha. Next time I went, the machine was moved next to 2 walls to force people to stand where they were supposed to. I don't think I was the only kid who worked it out. Answer: reminds me of the time I was a kid at Chuck E. Cheese's. There was this super monkey ball cabinet where you played a level, and then there was a jackpot level where you had to go down a big ramp and fly through a horizontal ring in the air for the jackpot. There was always this bit at the end where it went slow-mo at your ball's peak near the ring. To make it more dramatic, it seemed. From what I surmised, the owner could set a default jackpot ticket amount, which went up by 1 every time someone played. It went up to a settable max number, which then reset back to the initial amount when the jackpot was hit. When I was playing, the initial number was 50, and it was maxed to 100. So on this fabled day, I was playing it a few times to see every level, and I could never get the jackpot until I thought, what if I kept rolling the ball during the slow-mo part? That was the trick. The game made it seem like a cutscene where you always fell short, but you needed to keep rolling during it to get the jackpot. I got it multiple times that day, getting the 100 jackpot, then a few more 50-ish. The trick must have spread around because next time I was there months later, the jackpot seemed locked at 25. We enjoyed those bunches of tickets for sure, and luckily I never got kicked out or anything, haha. Story 24. When I was a kid, I went to a friend's 10th birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. I quickly realized that if you pulled the tickets slightly as they spit out of the skee-ball game, you could speed up the mechanism and quadruple your tickets. I played skee-ball exclusively for the 2 or 3 hours we were there, and got a veritable buttload of tickets. I got the coolest sticky hands and a bunch of Backstreet Boys posters from the prize counter and made all my friends and the birthday girl jealous. Highlight of my summer that year. Story 25. In Australia in the mid-2000s, Telstra, mobile provider, used to give you credit for making calls later at night. Optus, another mobile provider, used to give you free calls late at night. So I used to have 2 phones and use the Optus one to call my Telstra one overnight and just leave them on the call all night. Would get 30-40 of credit on the Telstra, and the Optus plan cost like $5 a month. So basically free mobile for a few years. Story 26. I worked for Amazon for like 6 months in 2016. I used their free Prime for years before they realized I wasn't an employee anymore. Story 27. Not sure if this counts as a loophole, but I'll share anyway. I run a recycling center, and back when Mountain Dew had that Xbox One promo with codes under the caps, we ended up collecting enough to get 20 Xbox Ones. Every employee got one that year. Also, Casey's Pizza had a thing going that you collect 10 tabs off the large pizza box, you get a free pizza. We had free pizzas weekly for years till they stopped doing it. Story 28. In Germany, parking with an expired parking ticket, 10 fine parking without a parking permit, 5 fine. Answer: a similar point was made in an American cop show I was watching once. A parking enforcement officer was takedown, and detectives were interrogating people that officer had written a lot of parking tickets to. One guy they suspected because he got an average of 3 per week in the same downtown area. He told the detectives, "Yeah, I got a bunch of parking tickets, but I didn't care. It totals 120 per week for the paid parking, but only 25 per ticket. As long as I get 1 day per week without a ticket, I'm saving money." I don't remember the exact numbers, but something like that. Story 29. I used to travel a lot for work back in the 90s. Airlines started taking credit cards as payment for drinks, but the planes did not have Wi-Fi. Flight attendants would swipe your card with a handheld payment terminal, but they couldn't run your card until after they landed. The handheld unit needed to be taken to an office and placed in a docking station. American Express gift cards resembled a regular credit card, featuring raised numbers. My coworkers and I kept an Amex gift card with 5 on it and used it to buy drinks on the plane. By the time the card was declined, we were on our way to the hotel. Story 30. When parking for multiple days at a lot that is normally used for during-the-day use, it might be better to lose your ticket and pay the full one-day price. Did this when at the hospital for kids' births, stayed 2 or 3 days. Out of curiosity, I tried not losing my ticket and was billed for all the days. Story 31. Years ago in 2001 or 2002, you could call up the cigarette company, mine was Players, tell them one cig was fudge up or like, the tin foil wasn't perforated, something basic, and they would send you a whole carton for free, in a really nice solid box. You didn't even have to prove it. Hello, Players. One of my cigs didn't have a filter in it. Can I get a coupon for a free pack or something, please? Sure, what's your address? Boom, 3 days later, full carton. I did that for quite a few years before it filtered down to, you have to prove it to, oh, we're sorry to hear that. Awkward silence. Answer, one time in high school we ordered Domino's and there were a couple of staples on the pizza. My friend's mom was livid. She called, and I swear, the second she said the word staple, they sent out a delivery guy with a replacement order. Not just the one pizza, but everything. Well, us little dirtbags figured there was something up with the staples, like a known issue for some reason. For about a year, anytime I was present when someone ordered Domino's, I grabbed the receipt and would get a free reorder. It worked every single time without any pushback. Eventually, the lady on the phone said that they no longer have any staples or staplers in the building, and that she didn't believe me. It was a good run while it lasted. Story 32. Back when I was at college, UK not US, I used to get my travel paid for by the college because I was from a single-parent family. They used to transfer 30 Razones a day into my account, which was the cost of my ticket. If you got caught without a train ticket, you got a 20 fine. So every day I just got on the train without a ticket and got caught probably once every 2 weeks, paid my 20 fine on the spot, and even then I was still in profit. This meant I could still go to college and also had money to give my mom. That extra travel money seriously helped because we desperately needed that extra money for me and my siblings. Answer, oh, I saved so much money on train tickets back in uni. Rode the train for free for 5 years and only got caught 2 to 3 times, all by the same guy. When commuting to there, I figured out that by the time the train came to my town, the ticket controllers already checked hundreds of tickets and seen hundreds of faces. I just ignore him and he just passed me by assuming he already checked my ticket. On the rare occasion I got asked about a ticket, it'd just say, you already checked, and that would be the end of it. This trick didn't work when traveling back home because I was boarding one station from the start of the train line, and every ticket in the train needed to be checked. Luckily, the university provided us with a pass that cost $6 per year and gave us unlimited public transport within city limits, or the first 4 train stops. When the train entered my station, it'd just look where the ticket controller was and board the train right next to him. He'd check my ticket right away, it'd show him the town pass, and by the time he came back around, it was an hour and hundreds of tickets later, and all he remembered was that I have a valid ticket. Story 33. There was a game at Dave & Buster's where a square ran side to side over other squares, and if you hit the button on the right place, you got a jackpot, or you could get an extra try, which was easier. The extra spin was so easy, we loaded up on those and hit the jackpot a reasonable amount of times. We stayed there for 3 days and got enough tickets to pay for all our meals in a full-size jukebox while only spending about $50. The bigwigs saw what we were doing and shut the machines down after we stopped playing. The next week, the square traveled significantly faster and was much harder to hit the jackpot and extra spins. We broke the system. Answer, we have a little arcade near the house that still gives out paper tickets. Multiple times we have played a game and noticed it isn't giving out tickets, so we get the employee to reload it. More than once, the machine will dispense an entire block at once. Play 1 or 2 times, get 5K tickets because other people are either too dumb or lazy to get help. Story 34. One summer, the parking lot in our town's main strip mall had closed for construction. It was early Uber years, and the Strip Malls Corporation decided to run a special free one-way rides to and from the mall up to 20. No code, no proof of purchase from any, if the shops, just the location. Everyone started using the mall as a pit stop to get to wherever they were going. People started using it as means to get to work. Just call a car from your house to the mall, get out, call a car from the mall to your work, all pretty much paid for. This was over 10 years ago when 20 could get you far on Uber. Lots of folks using it for the airport, truly anywhere. I was in my late teens and it was an incredible summer LOL. Reports later said they were well over budget, like 2 weeks in. Answer, the early burning VC money Uber years were great. I had just gotten my first real job in LA, but I was right out of college and didn't have enough money to buy a car and was living in a cheap room in Highland Park. They had a promo where you could pay something like $15 and then all of the rest of your rides for the month were $3. I took Uber to work in Pasadena and back for 6 days. It was a godsend, honestly. Story 35. Like 20 years ago, I used Sprint Mobile for my cell service. Guy that worked for them taught me a trick to get a bunch of credit on your bill each month. On my way to work every day, I would call the customer support line. The automatic answer system would answer and ask what the issue was. I would say dropped call. It would ask if I wanted to speak to CS rep. I would say no. It would ask what the issue was again. Say drop call. It would then automatically apply a 50 credit to your bill. You could do it 5 times a day and up to 20 times a month. Save 10 point earnings each month. Wasn't a huge discount, but it took maybe 2 minutes a day when I was stuck in my car anyway. Answer: I used to work for Best Buy Mobile, where we sold AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon. It wasn't uncommon to see reoccurring promos or discounts on people's accounts. I upgraded this guy's phone, and it printed out a summary of what we did, plus his current plan. It had a dozen different recurring discounts. Some I recognized, but most I had no clue what they were. Dude was a school bus driver, so he had set breaks between routes every day, which he used to call, and complained to Sprint every day. Actually talked to a rep and complained. Guess he did this with other companies too, but claimed he has best luck with Sprint since we were in KC. Story 36. I was grandfathered into the T-Mobile Jump on Demand plan. You pay the regular rate for unlimited data plus 5 MIO and can upgrade your phone a maximum of once per month, providing that you give the old one back and pay for any upgrades like storage, which I didn't do. When the iPhone 8 came out, I traded my iPhone 7 to have it at no cost. I had no intent on keeping it because the iPhone X released the next month, which I promptly upgraded to. I got a new iPhone every single month for over a year because you only have to give back the phone. The charger, headphones, and box were yours to keep. Then when that class action lawsuit against Apple for intentionally kneecapping battery life came around, I had 16 boxes with serial numbers on them to cash in for 50 each. Story 37. When I just started driving, like 25 years ago, I figured out an easy way to cheat the gas pump at my local gas station. I was playing around and figured out by accident, by flicking the flapper at a very specific rate, it would stop counting for about third of the time, but not stop pumping. If you were not precise, it would stop, and a message that says, "Please see cashier," would pop up on the screen. I'd just go in and be like, "I don't know what happened," and pay. The person behind the counter had no idea what was going on. They did pull out and upgrade the pump shortly after, but I got a lot of free gas. Story 38. Would make new Facebook accounts to take advantage of Papa John's free pizza coupon per Facebook account. Story 39. A legal and still used loop for Amazon is to subscribe and save. When you buy something, you click on the subscribe and save, and when it arrives at your house, you log back into your account and cancel the subscription. You get a few dollars off the item at first purchase and don't have to worry about more showing up later. Answer: this is an intentional loophole and isn't going to be closed. Amazon and other companies do this because they know that a certain percentage of people are going to sign up and forget to cancel. If subscribe and save has a 5 discount, all it takes is one person forgetting to cancel once for every 20 people who do cancel to make back their money. They know you are doing this and are fine with it, because this is how they draw people in. It's a feature, not a bug. Story 40. My brother and I used to buy a video game from Walmart, play it till we beat it, felt done with it, go to a different Walmart, and say our copy was defective, and that we didn't want a refund, we just wanted a working copy. Then we go back to the original Walmart and return the sealed game, no questions asked. You might still be able to do this, but I doubt it. Story 41. It was years ago, and I can't remember if it was Walmart or Amazon, but there was a glitch on the board game sale prices, making them free in your cart. A few bucks for shipping, and I got so many games to donate to Christmas charities. Story 42. 1-800-COLLECT. In the early 90s, if you talk fast enough, no one paid. State your name. Mom, come pick me up at the rec center at 2. Story 43. Back in the early days of the internet, my computer came with a month free internet service from a company I'd never heard of. We didn't have internet because my parents didn't think it was necessary, plus I was too young to use it and wasn't allowed. I installed it in a hidden folder and only used it late at night. Dial-up used the phone line. Each month when it expired, I reinstalled Windows to get another month free internet. I did this for years and taught myself to code in secret, which is more impressive because there weren't really search engines and no tutorials online, just looking at other websites and flirting with tech bros in return for them answering questions. When I was 14, the family business needed a website, so I made one. They never questioned how I learned. Story 44. In college, one washer in my dorm was well known for our ability to not pay the 50 cents required for a load. Insert 2 quarters, push almost all the way in until machine started. Pull back out. Free washing. The trick was timing a trip down there when nobody else was using it. It wasn't much, but for broke college students, it was great. Of course, now my alma mater has free laundry equipment in the dorms for students. Lucky bastards. Story 45. Last year, for about 6 months, I discovered that if you Googled Pizza Hut, a sponsored link would appear at the top of the page for Domino's Pizza. If you refreshed a few times, it would turn into a 50 off coupon that worked every day. I'm not going to say it's a great pizza, but at half price, it becomes a lot more palatable. I frequented the same location about 5 times a week getting cheap pizza, and I think they caught on. It was a sad day when it stopped working. Story 46. I used to have a streaming service, though a cable subscription. When I canceled my cable plan, it still let me log into streaming service without issue. It was a nice 4 years of free HBO Connect before they finally made some update that stopped me from logging back in. Answer: I apparently got 3 free years of Microsoft Office on my old MacBook. I think because it got so old that it hadn't been compatible with Mac OS updates for a while, and somehow that prevented Word and Excel from knowing the license had expired. Didn't realize until I got a new laptop recently. It's funny how once the loophole closes, you feel like somehow they've robbed you LOL. Story 47. A couple years ago, Uber Eats gave me a free promotion, something like 40 off my next 3 orders. I placed an order from a restaurant that also had a buy one, get one free promotion, and sure enough, they let me use both discounts. It only lasted for a few weeks, but I ate like a king. Story 48. Mrs. was doing an online order of nappies, etc. when we had our first kid. Both working and a newborn meant we had little time for normal shopping. Through some glitch in the online deal on nappies and baby wipes, the more you bought, the more it got discounted. We basically bought our eldest's entire nappy and baby wipe supply that night for next to nothing. Thank you, Duns, Ireland. Story 49. The arcade machine at the corner caf cost 50C to play. We found that if you smashed a 5C piece with a hammer to match the size and thickness of the 50C coin, the machine would accept it. We played so many games for cheap before the owner got rid of it. Story 50. One time Albertsons put whole chickens on sale for $1 vegetarian and then had a manager mark down 50 on each one. Thing is, they labeled them one each. So 50 cents a chicken. I bought 24 chickens, about 100 ribs of chicken for 12. Story 51. Years ago, the Pizza Hut app had an issue. When you ordered some specific flavor chicken bits, the store would see the order with a different incorrect flavor, so they would send the wrong flavor. I call the store and get a credit for the chicken. Did it all the time, because free chicken. Both flavors were good to me, so free chicken for like 2-3 years before it was corrected. Even had the manager tell me to stop, I just said, fix the app. Answer: back in the 90s, Pizza Hut had 5 all-you-can-eat pizza nights. My friends and I would go, so like 6 guys, and they would basically just bring us entire pizzas for 5. Foolishly, they would run this deal at the Pizza Hut that was directly in front of Maple Leaf Gardens. So can you imagine how quickly they'd run out of pizza when a hockey game was on? Hockey fans aren't known for their diet or self-control. Story 52. One time when I was flying with Eurowings, hand luggage only, I got a message from them to please check in my hand luggage because of limited cabin space. So the next time when I was flying with Eurowings, I actually needed more luggage, but I didn't want to pay more. So I took 2 hand luggage cases, went to the counter and told them that I got message to please check my hand luggage in, check in one bag and take the other into the cabin. That has worked 5 times now. Story 53. Several years ago, Leafly sent out a 50 off coupon for the CBD THC Company 5. But instead of being normal and sending a one-off, single-use code in the email, Leafly sent it as a link to a single-use coupon code generator. Also important to note, most of 5's products were under 50, they didn't charge sales tax for my state, and they had free shipping for orders over 35. The reason I figured out this coupon loophole was that I ordered something that was $42.99 and then went back because I forgot to get something I actually used for $9 to clear the $7.01 balance left on the coupon, figuring I'd have to pay the 2 difference in the 4 shipping, but whatever. But when I used the original coupon code, I got a "this coupon has already been used" to type error. Annoyed, I went back to the email and clicked the link again, and it gave me an entirely new coupon code. Fun. I tested my luck, and surprise, 5 didn't write any real protections into their coupon use system for this specific coupon, aside from the 1 coupon per transaction limit they already had. Meaning I could infinitely generate new codes and buy things for up to 50, paying 0, and I wasn't even breaking any TC because it was limit 1 coupon per transaction rather than per customer, account, address, etc. So naturally, I went on a coupon rampage over the next 2 months until they caught on and eliminate the link. All told, I bought about 8,500 worth of overpriced CBD HC products for the low price of 0. The time period for this was mid-October to mid-December because I was like a goddamn CBD THC Santa that year. Story 54. Starbucks tea. I was a broke jerk college student. I was starving and hardly ate. I found out if you bought a personal cup, you could get 25 stars automatically. You could also get free refills if you were a member. A free tea at Starbucks was only 100 stars, and they often would put that I got a personal cup, so that would get me another 25 stars with my free refill. So essentially, if I ordered a tea, I would bring my personal cup, get 25 for the initial purchase, and then get an extra 25 stars with my free refill. 2 more free refills, and I was basically getting 100 stars a day. I worked right next to a Starbucks, and I was cool with the manager, so he just told the employees to ring it up whenever I came in. I'd get maybe 2, 3 free refills a day and just use the stars to get more free tea. Eventually, I would use the stars to buy personal cups and snacks. 100 stars was really easy to get. Now they changed it. You only get double stars with a personal cup, which is lame. But thankfully, I no longer live off of tea, so I'm not really tripping. I exploited the shoot out of it. Mr. M, if you're reading this, I just want to thank you because 9 in 10 times the Starbucks tea was my only meal that day, and I know you knew I was struggling from all the double triple shifts I did. Thanks for all the free snacks and all you did for me. Thank you. Story 55. My high school vending machine charged $1.50 per snack, but if you hit C4 and then unplugged it mid-drop, you'd get the snack and your money back. The hallway was basically a snack casino until they bolted the cord to the wall. Story 56. The Royal Canadian Mint once ran a promotion for some hockey-related commemorative loonies, our Narny 1 coins, that included free shipping. Offer had no limit on order size, but was only good until the limited inventory ran out. The brainiacs at the Mint included free shipping via Canada Post. The fools. I immediately ordered as many as my small charge card could bear, leaving a 300 emergency pad. When they came, I took them straight to the bank and paid off my card. Rinse and repeat. I learned I could turn around my orders about 3 times every 2 weeks. Tellers learned to dislike me because they'd have to remove the coins from their plastic casings to count them. After 3 or 4 months, the issue ran out, the offer ended. But by then I had racked up enough travel miles on my card for 2 off-season air tickets from Vancouver to Rome without paying a dime in CC interest. Got a big bump in my limit, too. Subsequent free shipping offers from the RCM would be limited to 1 free shipment per mailing address. Story 57. You used to be able to buy a loose tea bag at Starbucks for $60 or something like that, then ask them for a free cup of hot water rather than paying $3.75, or whatever they were charging back then, for the barista to put the bag into the hot water and hand it to you. Story 58. I accidentally broke the coin slot on a pool table and everyone got free play at that club for days. I felt like a dive bar king. Story 59. I used to call the operator on payphones and say I lost some money trying to make a call. They try to return the change, but there was none to return. After that didn't work, they'd ask how much I put in, and I'd tell them like $2.50 or something. They'd question it like, why'd you put so much in? I'd tell them I thought it needed more money. I was 12, 13. They'd end up taking down my info, and a week later there'd be a check for $2.50 in the mailbox. My dad would cash it for me from his desk, and I'd have money for some candy bars after school. I was a criminal mastermind. It only closed because the payphones started going away, lol. Story 60. Airplanes used to have a credit card spot to watch TV on them domestically, but those credit card transactions weren't processed until you were on the ground. My hockey team figured out that you could use a hotel key card to trigger these TVs to allow you to watch like a credit card and not get charged. This was awesome. Story 61. Our company decided to deny all overtime, even though it's illegal to do that. Since we still had to work events that would usually result in overtime, I had everyone in our office keep track on both official and personal calendars of every minute of OT worked. That way, we were able to pretty much take random days off, comp time, whenever we wanted. When they finally agreed to reinstate OT after about 1.5 years, I had used this to get myself an entire week's vacation paid and still had about 4 extra days worth, which they paid out in time and a half. Story 62. My HOS had a rule that if you were 18, you could have your parents sign a form to allow you to write your own notes for being late leaving early. I turned 18 in the middle of my junior year, filled out the form, and had my parents sign it. I turned it in and the school wanted to reject it. I pulled up the rule and showed that there was no detail that required me to be a senior. Just the age of the student had to be 18. They weren't happy that I read the complete rule. Within 3 days, the rule was updated to say that a student had to be 18 and in the 12th grade, senior. Because I turned in my form and it was approved before the rule change, I got to keep the ability to write my own notes for the rest of my junior year, and I got to do it my entire senior year. I was the only junior to get to do this in the school's history, and I gladly ruined it for all future students. Story 63. Not so much a loophole, just being at the right place. I work in a cinema. Once, a good few years back, the bags of chocolate we bought in had a promotion tied to Google. Every pack had a special code which, when entered into your Google account, would give you 1 in Google credit for movies, apps, ebooks, etc. in the Google Play Store. As you are probably already aware, people are messy fuckers in the cinema, and the staff go in to clean up after them for the next show. Amongst the rubbish left was packets with the promo Google codes. Think I made about 150. Story 64. When my wife and I were dirt poor living on her master's degree campus, they charged for laundry. You paid through an app. I discovered that if you hit the start button on the app and close it immediately, the machine would start, but I wouldn't be charged. Got a lot of free loads of laundry that way. The loophole never closed, but the price did go up eventually because the old price wasn't penciling out for the school. I felt a tiny bit guilty for partly causing that. Story 65. McDonald's app years ago, you could get 1 free iced coffee through the app. But I realized if you deleted the app, then re-downloaded it, it gave you another code for a free one. I had one pretty much every day for about 3 months straight, haha. Story 66. Best Buy had an exercise bike available that I wanted. I ordered it, but the next day I got an email saying they were out of stock and here's a 50 gift card code for my trouble. The next day, the bike was still up there. So I ordered it again. And again, the next day I got a free 50 for my trouble. Did it for 5 cards before they removed the bike from their site. Story 67. The Coke machine in the science building at my university would register, but then return any dime you put in the slot. I got free soda for a couple of months before the wrong person saw me doing it. That person used the trick to empty the entire machine that evening. They replaced the machine a week later. Story 68. Back when I had my first mobile phone, circa 2007, tiny little LG flip phone that had enough space to store 2 MP3s and no more, and my games were limited to Snake and Drive. It came with a second internet browser called Opera. For completely unknown reasons, if I used Opera instead of a normal browser, it didn't charge me for internet use. I could access MySpace, Facebook, and my email without draining my credit, which was amazing given texts were 25 cents and no data was included. Story 69. When I was in college, 190s, the cups at 7-Eleven were not transparent. We used to fill them with chili and stuff a couple of hot dogs in there, put on a lid, stick a straw in it, then pretend we were drinking it when paying. Dinner for 99 cents plus tax. Story 70. When Uber Eats first came out, the app didn't differentiate between items in a combo. So I'd order a Big Mac extra value meal with a large Coke. I'd ask for no ice, which would mean the large Coke was only filled up to about an inch from the rim. I'd report the drink to Uber for being the wrong size, saying I got a medium instead of a large, with a picture of the partially full Coke as evidence. They'd accept that the drink was the wrong size, then refund the entire combo. I ended up getting free McDonald's for a few months before Uber Eats banned my account from receiving refunds. Story 71. Not major, but our trash service never picked up our can after we canceled service. They kept getting more and more expensive, and they collected our trash still for 3 years. Story 72. In college, there was a vending machine that not only gave out free Coke Zeros, but it would give you 2. Sometimes it would even glitch out and give you a Coke Zero and another random soda from the machine. It was never fixed the entire time I was there. Story 73. I wanted a hysterectomy because I had endometriosis that was debilitating and holding me back. I never want kids. I have a congenital disability that makes it dangerous to get pregnant. I have a cognitive disability that makes it dangerous to leave me fully responsible for a child. But every doctor used the old, "You're too young. You'll want kids one day. You'll change your mind. What would your future husband think?" The usual medical misogyny. My state had an archaic ableist law that parents and guardians of people with severe disabilities can to get a free hysterectomy for their daughter because eugenics. Also, something about it being easier to care for a non-menstruating invalid. A pretty disgusting law that remains from the days of asylums and institutions, where it was easier to sterilize and lobotomize a disabled person than to actually support their needs. So anyway, I, a fully grown adult, took both my parents to my GYN appointment where they formally requested I be given a hysterectomy because I was disabled and my periods were hard for my parents to deal with, and if I got pregnant, society would suffer. I had a total hysterectomy at 24, 0 out-of-pocket expenses. I had stage 4 endometriosis and they had to cut my bladder away from my bowel where it had fused. My life has been so much better off. Best decision I've ever made. Hawaii, I just realized my story doesn't actually meet OP's question because it's technically not a closed loophole. There's no longer a legal pathway to forced sterilization for people like me to force a doctor to sterilize me, but it has not been made illegal for a doctor to sterilize a disabled person without their consent if the doctor believes they should be sterilized. Which means this law is now worse than before because it's still harming people who don't want surgery, and now people who do want surgery can't get it. Story 74. Ulta had a rewards program with points that didn't expire many years ago. I saved and saved points until one day I was able to score 7 bottles of perfume. 7. Free. Miss Priss, the manager, was burning with jealousy and envy. Soon afterwards, they revamped the system to cap out. Story 75. Last year, I found a glitch in an online casino game where if you would put your stake down and immediately would withdraw when the game started, it would pay out 1 of your stake. This was a cash or crash game. Even if the game crashed before it started, you would still get the 1 profit. I always staked max, which was 100, so I won 1 every game. The game played twice every minute, so I made 2 per minute using this loophole. They patched it after 3 days. By then, me, my friend, and my brother made over 10K. Plus, because we staked 200 per minute, we got massive casino loyalty points. That gave us another 45 per hour in profits. After the patch, we cleaned out our balance and left it at that. About 3 months later, we all got an email stating we were banned from the online casino and that our accounts were deleted. Story 76. As a teenager in the early 90s, there was a nightly top 10 countdown on the radio. They had a competition where you could ring in and name the most requested song. You win a prize, usually a portable cassette stereo, Atari Lynx, loads of promo CDs, and radio station swag. Of course, all the kids listening in would ring as soon as the 2 songs started and name the 1 song based on the last night's result. My brother started keeping a running tally of previous results and would call as soon as the 3 songs started and guess which of the remaining 2 was the top song. If we got it wrong, we hung up and called back immediately to name the other song. We had quite the cartel going, including giving friends names and addresses until 1 week, where we got too greedy and won it 4 out of 5 times. They changed it after that. Story 77. GoGuardian is a website that teachers use to look at a student's screens and make sure they don't do off-task things. A classmate showed me this thing that looked like a bookmark tab but was really a way to turn off GoGuardian. That computer eventually stopped working, so I got a new one. Everything was the same except for that bookmarked page that just turned into a 404. Story 78. Long time ago, I was studying in Barcelona, and I would get a monthly transport pass. They were made of carton-like paper with a magnetic strip in the middle. Somehow it got bugged and it worked beyond the month it was valid for. It lasted me 2 years, saved like 35 euros per month. The paper sides wore off and I had to apply tape and paper. One day it stopped working and I felt so devastated but still very lucky. Story 79. One time I accidentally forgot to pay for parking at the garage I parked my car at along my commute to work. I didn't travel in every day, more like once a fortnight. Nothing happened. The expected fine didn't arrive. So the next time I thought I'd test it to see if it was a fluke, I could swallow the fine to satisfy my curiosity. Nothing happened again. I parked my car for free for over a year before management of the place changed hands, and I figured I'd better start paying again. Story 80. There was a vending machine in my dorm room that would dispense more change than required. I figured out the weird, rare conditions in which it did that and abused the F out of it for a few weeks until the vendor caught on. Pretty much got free laundry change for the semester that way. Totally forgot about it until this thread. That was over 30 years ago. Story 81. U.S. Mint used to allow you to buy silver dollars at face value with no additional shipping handling fees with a credit card. I bought a ton and collected miles on them. Story 82. Early to mid-2000s, Amazon UK had 5 referral vouchers you could send to a friend. If they spent it, with a very low minimum spend, you'd get a 5 voucher in return. Owning my own domain, I had an unlimited supply of email addresses, so could basically gift myself unlimited 10 credits. Now, back then, Amazon wasn't the marketplace it is now, and was mostly music, CDs, and books. But you can bet your jerk I built up a large CD collection, which I still have. Story 83. I like that agony aunt on salon.com, but not enough to pay actual money for. They used to give you a little story preview. I would open the page, and if I turned off my internet fast enough, it would load up before putting up the paywall, and I'd read the trashy agony aunt. Was she called Dear Purdy or something? Anyway, they stopped that. I still didn't pay for it, though. I just stopped reading the paywalled stories. Story 84. My Domino's Pizza app was messed up. Somehow the app's clock was off, and every time I ordered a pizza, the app would think that it took like 4 hours to be delivered instead of 1 hour, and it would give me a credit for a free pizza. It happened every time. Unfortunately, I moved last year way out in the country, and there isn't a Domino's around. Story 85. Here's one that heard about, but only after it was closed. To promote the new at the time Sacagawea dollar coins, the U.S. government lets you buy coins online with free shipment to your house. So what people did was buy thousands, or whatever the limit was, coins using their credit cards, collecting large amounts of credit card points, or money back, or whatever CC perks their cards had, and then when the coins arrived, they just deposited them into their bank accounts and then paid of the credit card company before any interest was due. Rinse and repeat. So people were just racking up thousands of air miles, or reward points, or whatever, until the government realized that people were buying the coins but not circulating them, making the program a waste to the mint and post offices time to process and deliver the coins only to have them be dumped back into the bank. Incidentally, I've gone to the bank and asked for $20 worth of dollar coins, and they bank had like maybe 5 of them. That's how unpopular they were in the US. Now it's even worse since most people have switched to just using debit cards, and inflation has forced cash carriers to carry just 20s, with ones being almost useless. Story 86. Old school claw machines. The glass would move with the latch-style locks, and you could put a coat hanger in and pull anything out. Now that's a real test of skill. Story 87. In Baldur's Gate 3, you used to be able to put all of a merchant's wares into a bag. Every time you level or got new characters, and it wouldn't recognize the items in the bag, so it would refresh. If you eliminate the merchant, you then get the very full bag of loot. It doesn't work anymore. Story 88. There's a car wash place near me that if I use my MasterCard, it turns on, but my card won't be charged. Story 89. You used to be able to get past news paywalls by putting a period behind the .com. I was sad when they closed that, but still don't pay any news subscriptions. Story 90. I worked for a company that had an amazing rate for ATT. Like I paid $25 a month when my friends were paying $75 or so around 2005-ish. I left the company in 2008, but they didn't take the rate away, and I never told ATT. I finally got rid of it when my husband and I joined cell phone accounts, and the family deal ended up being even better than this rate. Story 91. I once had an "It's Your Birthday" code for Starbucks that would give me free stuff if I bought something. It worked pretty much every day for 3 months. Story 92. I used to pay my vehicle registration late, but at least a month or two, they would give me a new month sticker for the month you paid in, as well as a New Year sticker. So essentially, I got a few free years of registration over several years before they figured it out, and now you only get a yearly sticker. If you paid a month late very year, your renewal was pushed a month out every year, so in 12 years, you would have received a free year. Story 93. Hitting my rewards on a payphone pretending I was making a collect call, but when it recorded the name, it'd just say where I was, and my parents knew to pick me up there. Story 94. Still use this one. The soda machine at my work is bugged. If you get a soda and use a $5 to pay for it, it will drop the soda, sometimes $2, and then give you 5 and quarters as change. Gotten a decent amount of free soda, but not so much they'll notice and fix it. And since it started right after it got serviced, it will be a while before it gets noticed. Story 95. My Fair public transport hack. Back when this was still new, if you had a NFC card reader, you could copy the data on the card, travel somewhere using the card, then put the cloned data back on the card to get your prepaid money back. In those days, there was no check on the server to validate the amount. They just trusted the data on the card. Story 96. When I was in high school, Qdoba had an online promotion where they had a selection of little mini games on their website you could play, and depending on your score, you would get a different coupon. There were a bunch of coupons you could win, and most of them sucked, like free small soda with the purchase of an entree. But there was one in particular that was really good. Free Pick 3 meal with the purchase of any drink. Pick 3 was like the largest entree they offered and was just what it sounded like. You could, for instance, get 2 tacos and a quesadilla. It was supposed to only drop very rarely if you got the highest possible score on the hardest minigame. We just Google image searched the coupon and would change the expiration date of the coupon in MS Paint by putting a text box over the real one. We'd print out like 10 or so of them and all go after school. Then on top of that, they had another promo where you got a free large chips and queso if you filled out the online survey with a link at the bottom of the receipt. It was a long jerk survey that was a pain to fill out, and at the end it would give you an 8-digit number to give to the cashier. The first couple times we actually filled it out and took it to the register, but quickly realized that he didn't actually do anything with it right then. He just stuck it in the register and they would process all the numbers in bulk at a later time. So we just would put a random 8-digit number at the top of the receipt without doing the survey. And voila, we got like $25 of Qdoba food for like a 1.89 if you got a kid-sized soda for like 10, 12 people every day for like 5 months. Story 97. Certain customer service phone line, if you keep pressing 0, it'll go to a real person. Now it just tells you to press a correct number. Story 98. During the time of introducing the euro in the EU 2002, I used plenty of Italian 100 lyre coins on my school's vending machines, which took it for €1. The €1 coins were extremely similar in shape, weight, and looks to the 100 lyre coins. I think the 100 lyre coins even may have been the blueprint for the euro coins. 100 lyre was about 10 CLTs at the time. Good times. Story 99. During the height of skyrocketing precious metal prices, you could buy a brand new OEM catalytic converter from the dealership parts department, cut off the extra parts, and immediately sell it to scrappers for $500 more than it initially cost to buy the part. Precious metal prices came down, so this loophole no longer was possible. I know folks who were making 5 figures easily. Story 100. I didn't even know I was abusing it. Back when Lime bikes were Jump bikes, Jump had a deal where you could pay $30 a month for an hour free each day. It was so useful and sustained me for like an entire year. When Lime bought them out, they ended the monthly program, but didn't tell any of us who had the program and didn't stop our access. That ended up in me getting 5 whole months of free bike usage. Finally, one morning, I found my account had stopped working. When I reached out, they accused me of theft of the 5 months and originally wanted to charge me. But when I asked when they had actually communicated to us the program was ending, they quietly dropped the chat and left me alone. Story 101. Way back in college in 1997-8, my school had a grand total of 8 dial-up modems to connect to the internet for the entire campus. 2,000 students plus faculty. You had to dial and randomly hope that one was free. My junior year, I was in an apartment with 3 other dudes and noticed that it randomly had an extra phone jack in it along the living room wall. I plugged a phone into it and got dial tone. I then called our apartment's actual phone number and our phone rang, meaning we had a second line that no one knew about. I quietly ran a 30-foot phone line from my computer to the living room under the carpet, plugged it in, and then basically connected and never disconnected for nearly the entire year, meaning that I more or less permanently owned one of the 8 connections. I then ran a token ring network through the back stairwell to my friends in the downstairs apartment, and we all shared the internet over a slurp connection on my 486. It was absolutely glorious. I never received a bill, and this was back when local calls cost money. It finally disconnected about 2 months before the end of the year, but it was an absolutely incredible run. Story 102. I was living with a woman in 1989 who worked at an international bank, most famously known for laundering cartel cash. She convinced me to move all my banking to her brand, and I received a staff account, which had many perks including no service charges and preferred interest rates on loans and credit cards. That relationship ended in the early zeros, but I kept banking there. I had savings, checking, mortgage, business, investment, and credit card accounts. The credit card was connected to a rewards program, but staff accounts accrued reward points at triple the normal rate and had a ridiculously low interest rate. I routed all my spending through it and got tons of free rewards. I also took out a few loans over the years for rates far below what normal consumers paid. In 2011, after enjoying the perks for over 20 years, 9 of which were after the relationship ended, I finally got a letter from the bank stating they were not sure why I was receiving these privileges and that they were going to terminate the perks at the end of the year, about 4 months away at that point. End of the year comes and goes, nothing changes. Didn't hear another word for 6 more years. Then finally, one day out of the blue, I started seeing service charges on the accounts and noted my CC interest rate was quite high. That is normal. I immediately closed all my accounts and moved all my business to the same bank as my wife. It took until the next renewal period to move the mortgage and some of the investments, but eventually I had nothing more to do with the bank. The party was over, but it was a good almost 30-year run while it lasted. Story 103. The water park in my town would just issue a new season pass if a kid went up to the window and said that their parents already dropped them off, but they forgot their pass. I got away with it several summers in a row. They would take my picture, I used my real address, everything, and they issued a new card. I told my parents I won it in a radio contest, the same contest every year. My parents asked very little questions because it got me out of the house all summer. One year I tried, and they said they had to call my mom. I said no problem since she had just dropped me off, and I knew they would get the machine. They got the machine and told me I had to sit outside the office until they could get a hold of someone. I waited like 10 minutes, then just snuck into the park for the day. I never tried the season pass trick again. Story 104. Worked weekends in a supermarket in high school. They had a game with tickets that were sealed on 3 sides, and you'd rip off the edges to open them up. I realized you could see inside if you pushed on the outer edges. We'd bend them all and take the ones with free food or whatever and give them to our friends. Story 105. Local used bookstore paid $15 cover price for used books, charged $50 cover price for purchases. This was only if you used store credit and did not convert to cash. I started buying close-out Bodice Buster and Cowboy Pulps from a store for next to nothing. The cover price was 10 or 20 times my cost. I converted lots of bad writing into good literature. I still have a lot of Kerouac, Faulkner, and Dillard in my library from those college days. Story 106. I kept getting free Apple TV subscriptions. They were usually for 90 days. However, one would end, then I would get another offer, not complaining. Story 107. One summer in high school, Coca-Cola had a Summer of Coke contest or something like that. You had a 1 in 5 chance to win a free 20 Oz Coke under the cap. Well, I could see that if I tilted the bottle just right, that I could read the winning caps before buying them. I spent 1.05 for an entire summer of Coke, and it was glorious. Sadly, summer ended, and with it, my summer of Coke. 'Twas a great summer. Story 108. Still abusing it currently, but I drive a company car, gas is paid for. I've been getting reward points every time I fill up. Story 109. Bacon at Whole Foods ready-made food bar. Raw bacon was $5.99. Cooked bacon at the food station was $6.99. I'd go in and get like 3 lobblers of bacon for my team every Friday, knowing it was still way cheaper given how much weight you lose cooking. They stopped carrying it at that specific location after about 2 months, but a coworker said her local one still did. Sorry, San Jose, CA. Story 110. Hulu used to run a Black Friday deal where you would get it for like $2 a month for a whole year. For a few years, I would make a new account each November and paid 24-year tax for Hulu total. Then like 2 to 3 years ago, they changed it so you can't use the same card twice, and I had to stop doing that. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you'd like to see more content like this, you might be interested to know that I've created another channel with a similar theme, especially for those of you who enjoy what I do. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. Take care.